We want to start off with a reminder that we are not doctors. Before you make any changes or try something new, always consult with your doctor and medical team first. Chronic illness can vary from patient to patient, so it's always best to consult with your own doctor for what is best for you.
Hello and welcome to IBD Determined. I'm your host, Mason Harvey, and I have Crohn's disease.
And I'm your host, Michelle Harvey. I'm Mason's mom, and I speak from the role of a caregiver. And today's episode is to announce that, and some of you may have already tuned in because you know about this, but we're also going to announce that we published 2 more
Bucks.
books. Yes.
Now,
So
they're not like reading bucks.
no,
No.
they're like a journal,
Yes.
but
they're
it's in a book style. So the first one is Not Your Average Food Journal and IBD Symptom Tracker.
Yes.
And so you'll see it's a legit book.
Yeah.
And that's the first one.
Mhm.
And the other one we published is
Not your average restroom journal and
IBD Symptom Tracker. Yeah. And there's Reggie. We
Yes.
miss you. Hello. And so this one also same thing. It
Mhm.
is a nice paperback book. So we'll show you more of these in a second, but those are what we published. And if you bought these and you scan the QR code to learn a little bit more about them, you're in the right place. So there is a QR code in all these, and it instructs you guys to come here and watch this so we can help you guys. Pretty self-explanatory, but just in case you wanted any tips or ideas for how we use them, we thought, why not? So the way that these came about was when Mason was diagnosed and he was in the hospital. We were starting to record
Everything I would eat, so we would know if there's a trigger.
mhm,
We'd
and anything in the bathroom
yes.
as well. So
But like for the food journal and the IBD symptoms, we would if I ate something uh that I didn't usually eat, we could always track it down. But we'd write down what I ate and what symptoms I had that day so we could see if anything would kind of connect that could say I was possibly leading to a flare.
and it also helped because what we realized is you were going to the bathroom so many
Hmm.
times. And that's the reality of IBD. And so you think you'll remember and you may, but when the doctor comes and says how many times,
You're like,
so when the doctor,
uh,
yeah, when the doctor asks you, how many times did you go today? It's like, I think,
eight.
I don't know, 8. And then, when you start actually documenting it, you realize, oh
Oh wow,
wow,
I go a lot more.
it was a lot
Yeah.
more. Or, what did it look like? Things like that. And so it was easy for us to start writing it down. So we made sure we didn't miss
Hmm.
anything. And it just kind of turned into a habit we brought home with us. And when we got home, we actually looked on like Amazon and we're
Yeah.
like, okay, is there something like this? And there was a few options, but none of them really checked all the boxes. And, some were just to do like a food journal.
Yeah.
Remember the simple was a very simple one we had. You just write down
What you
what you
had,
ate.
and yeah, what you ate and what you drank.
Right, and so we found one of those, and then those ended up being discontinued, and I think they came out the new version or something. So in the meantime, I was like, "Well, you know what? Let's just make our own."
Yeah.
So
What
we
better way?
yeah, so I'm like, "We know what we need. We know what would work best for this disease." And so we made some that were just kinda like spiral bound
Yeah, we've
notebooks
been using those for like
for like 3
yeah,
years
3
now.
years.
Yeah, so we made those mainly for us because I'm like, "Well, we can buy enough and we'll always have them, and then we could give them to others if
Yeah,
anybody needed
yeah,
them." But they were not anything by any means anything pretty.
yeah. They weren't like amazing. Well, they were helpful. They're
Yeah,
most definitely helpful,
they
but
served a
yeah,
purpose, and we could bring them with us to his appointments and show the doctor, and she could look right away and say, "Oh, this has been a trend. Like, look at this," or, "Oh, he's doing better, doing worse," whatever. It's all right there. So it ended up that it was just I'm like, we always want to make it a little bit better
yeah,
and have something like a little bit more detailed and include where you could document maybe your food triggers, but then on another page maybe you could mention like, "Oh, hey, I happen to have got a mouth sore this week. Oh, and I had a random my temperature was up."
yeah. And if
You
you don't
know?
write those things down, you might be like, "Oh, those are just weird things." But then if
Right.
you write them down, you might see they're all coming one after another,
Right.
and they might all be chaining or connecting to something else. And you're like, "Oh,
Yeah, and
th-
all of a sudden it's like a correlation. Instead of trying to remember, well, I did have, like, I did have that weird rash,
Mhm.
but I can't remember what week. But this way you can look back now and say, "Oh, look, and hey, at the same time I had tried this kind of food." And maybe it wasn't connected. Maybe it was a you had no food reactions and you're going, "Well, that's weird." So maybe you can start tracking potential
Yeah,
flare issues. So
symptoms.
that was kind of our idea. We wanted something that would track them both, track them together, and make it easy for a doctor to look and say, oh, look at this, hey, here's this. And it was also something we wish we had before you were diagnosed.
Yeah, I would've made it so much more easy.
Yes, but this idea was not just for after diagnosis, it's for like a pre-diagnosis too. So if you're looking at something um and you're kind of curious like, okay, let's start tracking stuff down. Let's see if there is a correlation here. If it's a food intolerance, if it's a food allergy, and so we also want something that anybody could use that's
Yeah,
maybe facing a any kind of health challenge.
not just Crohn's. I like the Not Your Average Slice of Pizza book. It wasn't specifically like Reggie has Crohn's,
Right,
and this book is meant for Crohn's. It's meant for any kid, any disease, any health
right.
issue.
Because you can
Yeah,
follow it.
yeah.
And
It's not like specific to one
yeah.
thing.
I mean, and it is based on Mason's journey, but in a way that others can always
Yeah,
relate
they can
to.
imagine kind of themselves.
Right.
Yeah.
And there's other disorders that people have that may have a reason to need to track food or track what's going on in the bathroom.
Mhm.
And so we wanted to create something that was not only like very functional, but was also like just felt nice. Like it
Yeah.
it looks well thought out. It's nice to look at. It's kind of fun.
It's not like a little
And
piece of paper the hospital
yeah,
gives you and
and
just
it's
kinda
not just like a standard, like, journal,
yeah,
so we wanted something that would work for adults and
yeah.
children. Oh, and the other thing was and so some of these we found they would put them together. So you'd have a food journal and a restroom, like, there'd be they would be in, like, the same journal. I
And
Yeah,
yeah,
we didn't like that. So
no.
that's our
It can
preference,
get
you know?
confusing
Yeah.
and
Well, it's also kind of like I feel like there's a little bit of dignity
yeah.
with this disease. And sometimes I feel like it's easy for people to forget when you have it that maybe an adult doesn't want to write down what they ate for dinner and what happened after.
Yeah.
And maybe you
They don't
don't
wanna
want
write
it
those things down for
all
each
in
other.
one spot like that.
And then you're like, "Oh, wow, that's
Yeah,
gross."
and there's something about having an actual, like, paper, like, to write this down on and visually see it. Everything's on apps, everything's digital, but I think this is great to actually have it.
You put one in the dining room, put one in the
Yes. So
bathroom.
that's what we did, and that's how we've always done it. When Mason keeps one in the bathroom, that's where it stays, and then the other one, it's sometimes, could be the kitchen, the dining room, and we also wanted something, though, that could be portable, so if you go
Mhm.
out to dinner and that's the other reason why you don't want the restroom journal
Yeah.
with it. You don't necessarily want that, and it could be, I don't know, if it's with this disease, you aren't as embarrassed of everything, I
Mhm.
guess, but for some people, it's still like, "Hey, I don't need to open this up and have a
Yeah.
stool chart looking at me,
I'm
so
trying to write
like
down what I had for
yeah,
dinner.
it's like, I don't need that. So
Awkward.
so we just thought if we could price something while it was low enough, you could get both, for under $20, something that you could keep separate. And we also designed this, like you'll notice this one is slightly
Bigger.
yeah, this one's slightly bigger, this one's slightly smaller. This one will fit in probably any handbag, a backpack, easy. I mean, the other one would too, because you can bring that with you to your appointments.
A
But this
really
one,
large pocket.
yeah, this one would work for that.
Yeah.
So anyways, that is the explanation of where these came from and why we did
And
this.
what they can be used.
Yeah. And
That's
so
great.
they're very like you can feel like they're nice. They're a glossy cover.
They're like a book you would buy kinda
Yeah.
like from Barnes& and Noble, like that.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
it's a great quality book, and I'm so happy with it because I really wanted something that you would receive it and feel like you got something of value and something that just made you feel supported and valued. Like, "Hey, this does matter, and this doesn't have to be, like, super serious and boring, like and it doesn't have to be like, oh look at it's made for a kid." It's kind of in
Just
between,
yeah,
I feel like.
just in the middle.
So, yeah, it was well thought out by us, and we'll just talk about this one. We're holding it first. We're gonna talk about the food journal first.
Mhm.
So if you receive this, you're gonna notice there's a bunch of food all
Drawings on
over
it.
cover.
It's
And
actually funny little story behind all these pieces of food. These were
Mhm.
actually the original, drawings I did from when I was in the hospital. 'Cause
Yeah.
there wasn't much to do, And so when there wasn't much to do, I just draw some drawings of food, and those are all the original
Yep,
drawings. There's
he
probably more, but
there's a lot more,
they're
but
just some of the best ones.
yeah, these are and I have, we have a backpack with this print, we have shoes. It's pretty fun,
Yeah.
and we get a lot of comments on it. And so,
Like,
yeah,
"Oh, where'd
so
you get that?"
this was, Mason was hungry and he was on gut rest, and so
If you're
he's like, "I'm
hungry,
gonna draw
why not
food."
draw fake food to look at?
Yeah. So these are, I mean, this is obviously like it's just kind of like a fun reference to
Yeah.
that. And then on the back, we have a little Reggie. So just a
Showing off
reminder.
Reggie.
Yeah. It's a little Reggie waving at you.
Mhm.
And you're gonna find, so if you guys turn, open your book and we'll kind of walk you through it as we're looking at it. You'll see how to use your journal. And so again, you can use this however you want. And that's the
But if you want an
idea.
idea how to use it, you can look at the journal, read the instructions, and be like, "Okay, well, that's what
Right,
that's for."
right. And with that, we have an example, like when you turn the page, we have an example filled out with how we would do this.
Yeah. Once again, you can do it differently, but this is just how we filled it out.
Yeah. So we turn the page, and then you're going to see a medication vitamins list. This is not something you have to fill out
No, it's just
every day. At certain points, you're taking different medications, and it's kind of hard to maybe keep track for everybody. And also, when you are like right now, they're kind of training you at Rady's. You've started a while ago, actually. I think it was at 12. They started it where they start having the kids answer questions like,
mhm.
what is your medications you're on? What is your dosage? And all that. And
And I was on so many, it's kinda hard to remember
yeah,
because Sunday and Saturday, I'd take 2 extra pills than all the other days.
yeah,
And so, then you get that confused, and then you're changing certain things because I was took off one of the pills, and then I kinda you kinda don't remember that that happened, so you just kinda think of, "Oh, yes, I remember this name, so I must be on it," but you're
yeah.
not on it, so, yeah,
Yeah.
you can say what you're on or remember and all that stuff.
And again, it's helpful because when you're meeting with your doctor, Mason had an IBD dietitian, and so this is helpful. So when you meet with them and you fill out your preforms, you have everything listed here that you're taking, the dosage
Yeah,
amount, the
the best
time, the
like for
day.
my vitamin D,
Here's
I'm
a
on gummy vitamin Ds.
yeah.
You can say how much dose you're on, how many times you take a day from each
Mhm.
one.
Right. So
Yeah,
vitamins, yeah, it's included here, and
say 2, which is
yeah.
whatever milligrams that
So
is.
just a helpful little chart to keep track of, and you can add more as you go. And then the way that the food ones, we're just going to open this up really quick for you guys so you can see really quick. The way these are set up is it is 1 day. This should last you if you used if you did 1 day every day, it would last 3 months.
Mhm.
So that's about the length,
That's pretty good.
and yeah, so that's how it's set up. So you're gonna have the first page, which is on this side, and we purposely set it up like this. So when you're able to show it to your when you show it to your doctor, it's right laid out
Yeah.
next to each other, so you can look right away. Instead of having to flip a page, it's like, okay, this is with this date, this goes with this one. So there is a point to that, and you'll see you put the date, which is really important, guys.
Yes.
Please put the date.
On my journal that I have, sometimes I don't write the date down, and then I go to write the date on the next day, and I'm like, because I turn the page and you can't
Yeah,
really see, and you get it mixed up. I'm like, oh, what was the date? And so you have to look at the calendar, then you have to re-go through everything, make sure you write the date down.
yeah.
So make sure you write down the date, or else it might get kind of confusing on what day that was.
Yeah, it's important because you're again, little things you think you're gonna remember, you don't because the days blend together. So it's important to put that there. We have a spot for weight, again, optional.
Yeah.
You can use this if you want. For us, it was important because for Mason, he was on a gaining weight diet, I
Mhm.
guess you would say. So he was trying to gain weight. So it's important for
Like
us to
how to
monitor
use
weight. Yeah, and also it's just important if you're trying to track for a
yeah.
flare. Sometimes that's where you can first notice something's
Right,
happening with
because
your
your body
body.
isn't absorbing as much nutrition, so your weight might go
Mhm.
down.
It's up to you, but we do wait every time we add it there. And then hours of sleep.
You wake up at night.
Yeah, maybe you're getting up at night, and so it's just good for you to be able to see and your doctor to be able to see how much sleep you are
Yeah.
getting.
Sleep is
And
also important.
right next to it, there's some smiley, sad,
Mhm.
neutral faces, and that's for mood. And so again, mental health is an important part of this. And so we have you can, check off which one you're feeling like on that day.
'Cause stress can potentially make flares worse or maybe
Yeah.
start a flare.
Right.
Not a severe one, but it can start one.
Right. Or maybe you can start to realize that maybe you're having more bad days than good days,
Yeah.
and it might be time, make sure you're talk to your therapist or, get a therapist. So these are helpful things, just helpful tools daily to just kind of monitor your mood, see how you're doing.
There's one that I think is a very important one for flares, which is appetite changes, which there's a yes or no
And
box.
that's on the next
Yeah,
page.
it's on the
Yeah.
next page over, under the weight or weight gained, which that's important for me because usually for me, the first signal of a flare is a loss of appetite. That's for me. It's different for everyone. The last
Mhm.
flare, that didn't happen. But usually that does happen first, so that is a good little warning sign.
Yeah. The first page, going back to that one, we're going to have a spot. We have it where you have room to write the type of food you ate, type of drink you had, the amount. That's also important as well, and reaction or pain. Maybe there was a reaction. Maybe it wasn't a painful
Yeah.
one. Maybe you just did feel pain. But important to write what the reaction might have been to that. So this is also good like for allergies. If you're trying to figure out what if you have an allergic reaction, important to put that here too. So again, this first page can really be used for anybody. It's not like IBD specific necessarily.
Mhm.
So you can use this to how it works for you. We have room for where you will put for breakfast and drinks, what you have for breakfast with the clock next to it. Fill in the time. So maybe you had breakfast
Yeah.
and there was no reaction, but maybe by the time you had lunch,
You had a little
you had a
reaction.
reaction. Put a little note in the reaction or pain about what time maybe when that happened, so you can correlate it to what you ate before or
Yeah.
what you ate then.
After
Yeah,
or
like if you start getting sick
later.
while you were eating it, that's different
Yeah.
than having a reaction a little bit later. So, important. Those are little things you can fill and you can customize this again as much as you want. But there's lunch and drinks, dinner and drinks, dessert and drinks, and an area for snacks and
Snacks, the best
drinks.
part.
Yeah, your favorite. That's all on the first page. And then there's also a spot that says, did you take all vitamins?
Hopefully you're right, yes.
And either you can use this, for some people, it might be a good reminder to
Mhm.
you, like, oops, I forgot
Ooh,
my vitamins
yeah.
today. And again, another way to correlate something, maybe why you start feeling unwell
There's maybe
or,
because on one day you forgot to take, a vitamin or a
right.
pill or something like
Right,
that.
because it also has, did you take all medications? So, same kind of thing. You might realize, I didn't. Look it, I did not do I didn't take them.
Mhm.
And if the for a certain reason, maybe somebody did take them and you got sick afterwards.
Yeah.
And maybe you weren't able to take your medication for a reason. Maybe you weren't able to take the vitamins because you were, ill. Who knows? So it's important to say yes or no. So you at
Mhm.
least know on that day. And then you can circle the total amount of 16.9-ounce bottles of water. That's like the average size water bottle
Which is
you would get,
important because especially in a flare, you're not absorbing as much water.
right?
So you gotta make sure to drink a little more water than usual so you stay hydrated.
So it's just important, like that way you know how much water you're drinking.
Mhm.
And then underneath that, we have supplemental nutrition drinks.
Which I'm
So
very familiar with.
yes, he has a couple a day. So right now we're circling two, but at one point we would have been circling nine of
This
these
is
because that was
amazing.
all he was
Yeah.
having. So some of you out there, maybe you're doing EEN and you're just going to be having just drinks. And so it's important to still monitor that too. So this will transition with you from whatever phase of a IBD diet you're on. This should help. And on the second page, kind of where Mason was talking about, where a couple of things that are most important to him are,
Mhm.
this is more, I would say, for IBD, but I'm sure
It
it
can
can be
work for
used for others.
yeah.
Yes, but
There's probably other uses for them.
there might be, but we designed this specifically for
Yeah.
IBD. So it's going to ask you if you're in a flare. And it says yes, no, or unsure. But that's because sometimes you don't know,
Yeah.
right?
Maybe you're just having a bad day and
Right.
it might clear up the next day. Or
Right.
maybe you know you're in a flare because it's been like this for about a week or so.
Right, and you started recording this because you're in a flare and so yes.
Mhm.
And so it kind of helps because when you're looking for food triggers, if you're in a flare, it's important to note that if whatever you're eating, maybe all of it's being triggering at that moment because
Yeah.
you're in a flare. But if you are not in a flare and you are doing okay and you can see that you're having reactions,
The
then
next thing is
that can show
unsure.
you a food trigger,
Mhm.
So again, these just help kind of identify food triggers, or are you in a flare and that's why you're having reactions. So,
There's like new foods and drinks tried today. Which I
mhm,
remember when we first got out of the hospital, I was only allowed to eat a very limited amount of things.
mhm,
And slowly my doctor would say, well, maybe you can try this. You have it. And then you're like, well, I had a new food today, which
mhm.
I don't usually have. And did it go well or did it? cause
Right.
a little reaction? Did it cause a flare maybe?
Yeah.
Possibly,
So there's a
potentially?
spot where you can add that too. It's a little further down on the page. And but right under if asking if you're in a flare, it
Mhm.
asks what your body temperature is. So again, you don't have to do this, but sometimes with IBD you'll run a temperature. And so it's good to see maybe you just want to take a temperature. You don't have to do it all the time. Maybe you want to do it daily and just keep monitoring it.
Just to
But
make sure?
that can kind of help give you an indicator of something as well. And also, I mean, it could be that you're just sick and you have one, but there's a spot for that too that asks
Yes.
if you are sick. So again, we're trying to make sure everything correlates. So if you have everything looks great, but you have a temperature, why do you have a temperature? If you look down here, it says, are you currently sick? Cold, flu, COVID, etc. So you would write in there what you have, and that could explain why your body temperature is up at that time. So it's important to it just gives a full picture, I
Yeah.
guess, for the doctors. And then, like Mason was mentioning, it has a spot for weight lost or weight gained. So if you're monitoring your weight every day, you can go back and look at the prior day and you can start saying, oh, yeah, I maybe lost a couple ounces, gained a couple ounces, or maybe suddenly I've dropped a couple pounds.
Yeah.
Like,
Oh,
yeah, so that's helpful too. And the appetite changes, really important to note because it does happen with a lot of these guys. And for him, he just loses his appetite. Some people don't want to eat because of the pain. It becomes difficult to eat. So just important to note if you've had any of those appetite changes. And there's a daily calorie goal and actual calorie intake. This might be a little more challenging
yeah,
to
it's a
figure
little
out,
more confusing.
but when we did meet with the dietitian, we did have goals that we
Mhm.
needed Mason to try to meet. And so we would have like say a daily calorie goal is, 2000, 2100, 2200, something around there. And it could be higher, could be lower.
Really important to you. The
Mhm.
only thing you just gotta find the calories somewhere on whatever you're
Right.
making.
So try to maybe just do the best you can,
Yeah,
and just so you have an idea, are you getting close to it? Because if you're suddenly losing weight and you're supposed to be getting, 2,000 calories a day and say you're getting 20, even 2,100, and you're like, why am I losing weight? That could be because you have some inflammation going on and your
you gotta
body's not
surface
absorbing
focus.
it. So there's different little clues in here that could help. And we have a special spot where you can check yes or no for mouth ulcers,
Eye issues
uh-huh, skin rashes,
and
and
joint
joint
pain.
pain. So again, some people with this disease will experience all of these. Some will experience one, some
Or
may not
2.
experience, or two. There's so these could all be signs of a flare as well.
Mhm.
So important to kind of document if you're having these so you can look back and you can see if this is flare related, if this is triggered by food, because there could be other things that trigger these things for depending on what you have. Like, again, some of this does not just can be used for other things besides IBD, but
Yeah.
these will all work for IBD for sure.
Mm,
So we talked about the new foods and drinks. You mentioned
mhm.
that. Talked about how it has if you're asked if you're currently sick.
If you're yeah, flu, cold, or COVID.
And then changes in medication or treatments.
Oh, that's important.
And the reason that is important is because Mason started to flare because they adjusted his medications. So it wasn't like they changed the medication, they changed the timing.
Mhm.
So
So I
that's
just went
important to
from
know.
4 weeks to 5 weeks and then 5 weeks to 6 weeks to try to get to 6 weeks, and the test said that I had enough in my system
Yeah,
to
his
go to
trough
6
levels are
weeks,
high enough.
but, I just probably need a little bit more than usual, so that's another good thing to check.
Right. So it's important to say that. So that way, if you're looking for food triggers, see, was it the food that triggered it, or was it maybe because there was a medication change?
Medication.
So that's why we also have this here, so we can correlate that.
What is, like, a steroid, like prednisone? Because that was kinda like a
Yeah,
treatment for
same
me.
thing. That
Is
would
that a
be like a
treatment or a vitamin?
medication.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's like a medication. So a treatment, I put medication treatments here
Yeah.
because some people consider their like a treatment to be like an infusion,
Yeah,
that
yes.
kind of
Yeah.
thing. And a medication might be like the steroid. It could,
Or an infusion or, like,
or it could be
a
like
shot, an
the
injection,
injection.
yeah.
Yeah. So whatever you consider it, it kind of covers that. So yes, this is where you should put if you are doing a steroid wean and you need to put that here that you're trying to get off of this so you can again correlate because
Prednisone takes a really long time to wean off, by the
yeah.
way. Well, did you take all your vitamins today?
Right. So it's important to look at everything, see if there are any changes. You add new vitamins. Maybe that is causing an issue.
Mhm.
There are so many things here that a doctor could look at this really and help you with it. And food or drinks that hurt or trigger or any that might have triggered me today. So this you don't have to fill out, but if you just want to put a reminder here, more if you have a question like, I think that triggered me. So that way you can put like maybe, like with a question mark here. This one when and
Possible.
then when you do it the following week, if you keep seeing a recurring theme, then you may have found a food trigger.
Mhm.
Then at the bottom, it says, are there any stool changes? And that is where we get to the restroom
Yeah,
journal. And
perfect
so,
segue.
yeah, so if you check yes, we recommend you use the restroom
Mhm.
journal. And if you check no, I mean you could still use the
Yeah,
restroom journal.
you
I
should buy both.
yeah, I definitely for us these go hand in hand. And I
Yeah,
think the restroom journal for us is like the most
important. More important, but which
yeah.
one is you've had, I don't know, you had pizza for the first time 2 months ago, and you wanna make sure that maybe it's not changed thing, but you've had pizza by now, and you're completely fine for almost a year. You're not
Yeah.
worried about saying, "Well, I've had pizza and I was fine before, so it shouldn't really
So you don't
change
have to keep
anything."
like
Yeah.
putting it in here.
It's like, "Oh my god, I had pizza today. I
But
had pizza today."
the
Yeah.
important thing with the food journal and why these are so important to keep at hand, even when you're doing well, is because just like what happened with Mason a few weeks ago when he started not feeling well, it is important to suddenly say, okay, well, what are we looking at? Let's start documenting again. What is he eating? What is he drinking? And, or is this more of a
Or is it total
reaction
reaction to
to the
the
change in the
foods?
timing?
Or is it because of something he ate a few days ago, you
Because the
know?
doctor's gonna ask that and ask those things. So, it's important, just, like, keep it handy even if you're not think if you think you don't need it, you just might. And so, this little book is
It might just be your savior.
yeah, it'll really help you guys, and I think you'll be very happy with
Yeah.
it. And the other one now so what we're gonna talk about next
It's
is
the restroom
the
journal.
restroom journal,
It's a very
and
beautiful paint color.
yeah, I know, woo.
Front page, yes.
And so Mason, it was important to him. And, you know,
Still is.
yes, how we designed this though. The design is important on this. And you'll see it looks like basically like bathroom tiles.
Yeah.
Something you find on a shower, maybe on a floor, on vanity, on whatever.
Yeah.
So we thought
Just a nice and laid back.
right, like, okay, this is a restroom journal, but we don't want something that's, like,
Yeah.
making fun of it. I mean, some people may have a sense of humor about it, but it's like, okay, how do we create something universal that is going to say, "Hey, this is a restroom journal," but not like, "Hey, this is"
They're like,
you know?
"Throw some toilet paper."
Yeah, and so he's like, "Please don't make it funny, like, don't put Reggie on a
Jokes aside.
yeah, like, that was important to him. He wanted something and so
Mhm.
I think this would appeal for kids and adults. I think
Yeah,
it's a
anyone.
great, compromise, and again, Reggie's on the front, and
Mhm.
Reggie's also on the back of this one.
He's everywhere.
Yeah, because it's all not your average themed,
Mhm.
which is, after the original book, not your average slice of pizza. So we wanted to throw him on there, like saying, "Hey."
He's
So
here.
yeah, and we had started off like we mentioned in the hospital. We just had a paper and we would write stuff down, and then we got home, we got a little more organized, and it was, just started getting out of hand. We had so many papers and then it's not all in one place. And so this answers all those. This you can leave in your bathroom and
And just
simple
leave it there.
it's just simple to fill out there and leave and
Mhm.
nobody else has to see it except for you and your doctor if you want and your parents if
Yeah.
it helps for us because we can look at it too. And so on the first page of this one we're going to kind of go through it. It just tells you again
How to use your restroom
how to
journal.
use it with our suggestions.
Mhm. Use it however you want, but we're just giving you
There are suggestions.
suggestions.
We also have an example that we filled out for you guys to kind of see how we do it. This is actually how Mason has been it's
Doing
laid
it
out
for the
very
past 4
closely.
years.
Yeah, to how you've been doing this. And so that's kind of helpful. We also have you're going to see a medication and a vitamin list. And on the other page, the lovely stool
Trying
reference
to get
chart.
demonetized.
Yeah, it was gonna be one of those things I almost put on every page, and then I was like, "You know, I don't think
Yeah.
every single day you need to look at this and, like, which kind is it?" So, we have, it's what his doctors use in the office, and you might even have seen these, and this is a little picture they usually hand you and
It's
say,
better than theirs.
"What does your poop look like?" And you're like, "Oh
Yeah.
gosh." I don't know if it's better than theirs, but
Well,
because
I mean,
it's ours.
it's hard.
It's not at the doctor's.
Yeah.
But it will help you guys and help teach I mean, adults
Mhm.
can learn this, kids, and so that way when the doctor asks, you can say it's like a T4, it's a T5, a T you have an idea of what you're looking at. And so, yeah, so we have that in the very front, so you can flip back to that and refer to it if you need to. And then you have again, we set this up the same way. So when you open it up, you have on the one side, you're going to have where you make all your recordings for your I guess the results.
Yep. The date and stuff.
You're yeah, and then you're gonna have your IBD symptom tracker on the other side. So we'll
Mhm.
kinda go through that real quick again. So the first page is your weekly restroom logs. So you can record 7 days, Monday through Sunday. and there's a spot for you able to write the actual date, which again, important to put in there so
So
you
you don't
know what
forget.
day it was. Yes. And then we have a spot where you can put the time when you went to the restroom and the type. When we refer to type, we have, obviously the T1 through T7s. And we'll try to not make this as gross as
Right.
possible. Some of you are listening. You're like, I don't care, say it all because and then other ones who are listening are like, please don't say that out loud. And you can read this yourself, but
Yeah.
there's possible symptoms to include with it. So you'll see in our example, like you might say, oh, there was a T5 and there was a small amount of blood. Maybe there was just blood, but you want to differentiate between a small amount and so we have a bunch of different things here and I'm not going to go into all of them, but we have possible symptoms and abbreviations. So we would abbreviate. We have here the abbreviations so you can write it in like maybe SA for small amount of blood, B for blood, and another tip, something we did.
Yeah, yeah, I color code it because sometimes when
Yeah.
there's so much writing, depending if you go like 15 times a day
Yes, it
or
was when he was going
yeah,
a lot.
because when you
Yeah.
go 15 times a day, there's so much going
Mhm.
on, it's hard to
Yeah.
even see. So if you use a red colored pen instead of, well, just use that to circle whatever, then
Right.
it's not as confusing.
Yeah. So it's kind of like it'll pop out like, okay, there was blood here and there. So that
Basically a warning signal.
yeah, so you can do that. And then some of you we have a little area where you can write in your own abbreviations. So maybe something else is going on and you want to make note of that. So the reason we do abbreviations is because depending how many times you go in a day, it can take up a lot of space
Yeah.
on the paper. And so sometimes for like right now when Mason is doing well, we barely have to take up any space. But there were times where we fill out was just full,
Mhm.
so that's why we have abbreviations. You can write it out if you want to, but that
Yeah,
was our
abbreviations
recommendation.
can be important.
Yeah. And then we have a spot in the corner that asks if there's any pain or
And
soreness.
then you have Monday to Sunday.
Yes, and so you would put if you had any pain or soreness, and also type or location,
Mhm.
because sometimes you may have had, pain in the upper right quadrant. Maybe it was around your belly button, maybe it was lower. It's important to note the type and location, and maybe if it's because sometimes you would get pain, but it wasn't like it would give you the heat pack. You get the
Yeah,
pain at night, and it would always be, and you could tell what spot it
abdominal
was in.
pain.
Right.
That's what yeah.
So yeah, so just to note when you're having this, important to put that here. The second page on this one, which this is probably like my favorite thing that we did with these, is we put it's called the Pucai chart, Pucai, and it's for really it's a measure for ulcerative colitis and how far in remission you're doing. It gives you a number score. You're asked a bunch of questions. Our doctors use it for
For
everybody, for
yeah,
Crohn's and
and
UC.
Crohn's
Yeah, for both
and
of it.
ulcerative colitis.
Right. So the Pukai score can be used for either of them. It's
Mhm.
extremely helpful. So every time Mason goes in,
You have to fill out
we have to
this.
fill it out. And so I thought, why not include it? And you don't have to do it every day, but maybe at
Yeah.
the end of the week, maybe you can say, so like every Sunday, you fill this out. Maybe if you haven't done it and you're going to a doctor's appointment, fill it out beforehand. But it's good to see maybe once a week, start seeing a trend. So we ask all the questions that are on this test.
Mhm.
They give him,
So you can be like, "Well, I don't really remember," so you can go to this and be like,
right,
"Well, for this," you can fill it all you can kinda, like, copy and paste it
right,
from the book to
to what
the
you're trying to fill out. So
trying
your
to fill
doctor
out, yeah.
has an accurate idea
Instead
of
of
what's
a
going on.
guess.
Yeah.
Well, it's not a guess, but, like, you're trying to remember.
Super helpful. So this was important for me to include because I think it's important to the doctors and it helps them see where you're at. But then we go into more. It's very similar to what's in the food journal as well,
Mhm.
because these are also the other aspects they ask you. So the same question, am I in a flare? Your current body temperature, if there's any
Weight
weight
lost or
loss,
weight gained,
gained again.
any appetite
Mhm.
changes, daily calorie goal, actual
Right.
calorie intake.
And this, I mean, again, some of these you may choose if you have both
Mhm.
journals, you
May choose to do it in the
may
food
choose
one.
just to do it in the food one, but make sure that you're doing the dates on both of them so you can open both up and reference them. So
Yeah.
that's what's really cool. If you're putting your dates on everything, like we mentioned, you'll be able to go back and forth and reference both of these together.
And
And
have any
it'll
questions.
be so helpful, guys. I'm telling you, both these together would be amazing for your doctors and for you.
It's confusing for yourself.
Yes. And mouth ulcers,
Eye
eye
issues,
issues.
skin rashes, and joint pain.
Hmm.
That's also on it.
And then also asking again, are you
Are you
currently
currently
sick?
sick?
because those things can affect if you have a flu,
Mhm.
it can definitely affect your restroom habits. And so or even COVID.
Yeah,
So there's other things that can affect us. So important to mark on here
sure.
as well again. And then any changes in medication or treatments
That
again.
is also very important
Right.
for
Because that's one of the first changes, that's
mhm,
where you can see it as well. And so that's how the restroom journal is set up. And it's basically everything that we have used, everything we had wanted.
yeah, basically the things that we thought would be most important.
I definitely think this is gonna be one of the most, like, comprehensive sets of journals on the market right
Mhm.
now, for IBD, and you can have there's something else going on. Maybe you have visited your doctor. Maybe you visited the pediatrician. Maybe they are saying, "Oh, it's something else," and you feel like, "No, there is more going on." Maybe it's time for you to fill these out and bring this with you to an appointment.
To
Show the
have more
doctor.
proof of what's
Yes.
happening.
Start recording it, start showing them so when they open it up, it's in black and white and it's right there. They can flip right through the pages and they can see what's going on. And I just think it's helpful with allergies if you're trying to track that for whatever purpose you use these for. But for us, we want to make sure there was something specific and we have that second page to help you out there with IBD to really kind of track and see like if you're maybe going into a flare, coming out of a flare, things like that. So, I think now you can see also why we kept them separate because they are different books, but they do correlate and I think they go well together. And if you have IBD, I think you could use both. Definitely. And I think that it just helps tell a larger story of what's going
So you
on.
make sure what's going on. You're not just guessing and trying to remember what
Yeah,
you did weeks ago or
right.
months ago and
Right.
trying to remember all that.
Because it's hard. It gets
Yeah.
difficult to remember and you think
Like,
at the
did that
time you're
happen?
like
That
that's
may not have happened.
yeah.
Let's
Well, if
see.
everybody thinks back and it's like, "Oh, well, what did you eat on that
You're like,
day?" I don't know what I ate 2 days ago. Like,
water.
sometimes, we don't know, and then maybe something you drank. Maybe there is so that's why you include everything in here, and if you meet with a dietitian, this would be both these would be helpful. With your doctors, all of it is
Very important.
yeah, really important. So I think that's, kind of it
Yeah, pretty much
for
it.
these, and, yeah, I'm sure we could go on and on and
Yeah, I
on,
know.
but you guys are probably, like, just wanna get started and start using yours, so
Yes. You just want to buy it so bad,
yeah.
don't you?
So these again, these are just you guys use this how it works best for you. And hopefully, maybe you
Mhm.
got something from our tips, our suggestions, how we use it. But however you use it, let us know what you got them for. Maybe you don't have IBD and you got these. Let us know
All the
how
different uses.
yeah, I think it makes it worth it because these took a really long time. This has been in my brain for a long time, and it was like I didn't wanna just throw something out there that I wasn't proud of, and then I kept adding things too. It was like, "Oh,
To make sure it's all
yeah,
there's always room for improvement, but this is the best it
yeah."
is right now.
Right, and I'm sure at some point, I mean, who knows what I'll think of, but right now
Yeah,
I haven't. Right now this is
the best it can be.
we kept adding stuff. I mean, it's been, like, in production for, like, over a year, and we had what we were already using, so we built off of that system, and that was a tried and true system. That
Mhm.
worked, and that was great. His doctors really appreciated it, and they liked what we had. So, we had that, and then we made it what I think even better. And so, I hope everyone will value the fact that everything is in one place, and it's, like, it's keeping your health
In check.
in check. Yeah,
In
and
balance.
right. So I think these will be very beneficial. Excited if you did purchase it. If you just saw this and you're like, "Oh my gosh, we're gonna have a link for you guys. You can go to Amazon. You can get these 2-day shipping." I mean, these came so fast. I didn't believe it.
Yeah.
I was
2
like
days shipping?
I was like, "No way," because I just placed the first order as soon as these were published on Amazon. It's like, let's see. Literally in 2 days.
2 days, yeah.
They were there, printed, beautiful, everything we hoped for. It was like, "Whoa." Yeah, it was pretty amazing.
Yeah.
So even if you're in the hospital right now, if you need one of these and, order it, it'll should be there. They have it delivered to the hospital or just have it when you get home. It'll be there for you guys. So feel free to reach out to us too. If you have any questions or want any advice on how we filled something or how we did something, please reach out anytime. And
Yeah.
If you need any medical advice, though, please don't contact
Yes,
us.
we are
That would
not
no,
doctors.
that will be your doctor. So important to let your doctor know. This does not replace a doctor,
No,
guys. This is not.
what this is meant is you can fill this out and then show your doctor.
Right, and let your doctor know you're using it,
Mhm,
and as always, if there's something that is bothering you, you talk to your doctor first. We don't just write it down in the book and
yeah,
think, "Oh, let's see how it goes tomorrow." If there's a more immediate issue or problem,
always
yes,
contact your doctor.
please contact your doctor and, make sure, you're okay.
Everything is okay.
But yeah, let your doctor know you're using these, and hopefully they'll help you guys out. So
Yes,
with that, you guys can follow us on Instagram. We'd love to see you on there at Team IB Determined, following our journey
and then
in
Reggie
the
Project.
Reggie Project. Yeah, that would be great too. If you guys want to take a picture, download a version of Reggie, and he's on our website,
Take
and we have a
pictures to
link.
anywhere.
Yeah, you can just take them with you, and go
Hospital.
to the hospital, go to an appointment. We'd love to see more faces on there,
Oh, imagine
and
Reggie with Statue of Liberty in the background.
that would be
That'd be
really
very
cool. We
cool.
don't I know, I'm like, I hope some, like, kids, like, who live in, like, other places that would,
Yeah.
like, take pictures with it and, like, landmarks where
Oh,
it'd
that'd
be
be
like
so cool.
that'd be really
That'd
fun.
be really
So,
cool.
yeah.
Reggie at different places.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that'd be cool, guys, if anybody wants to do that. So if you're listening to us, you're probably enjoying our podcasts on Spotify, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, or Apple Podcasts. And there are other places as well, which we'll have linked for you guys in the description so you can see where to listen.
And there's actually YouTube podcasts, which is
Yes,
the
there
perfect
is.
segue to YouTube itself. So if you are on YouTube, make sure to like and subscribe. And if you want to be notified every time we post a video,
Mhm.
make sure to hit that bell icon.
Please feel free to comment, guys,
Yes,
and
we love reading your
yeah,
comments.
let us know if you ordered them, let us know if you received them, and we're, again, super proud of this and so excited to use something that's, like, been a win for us and will hopefully be a win for you. So, we hope you guys enjoy them, and again, let us know if there's anything we can help you with,
Yeah, just let us
or
know.
answer. Yeah,
And hopefully you
so
like using them.
yep, and we will resume with, if you're watching this in order, watching our podcast in order, we were supposed to be talking about the final
Yeah.
IBD day at Rady's today, but we
We'll
had to
be doing
interrupt
that
it.
next week.
Yes, so that'll
Yeah.
be back next week.
So if you're interested about watching IBD Day, tune in for next week.
Yep, that'll be the overview and the final day we discuss.
Yes.
So that'll be it, guys. So hope everyone is having a good weekend, week, day,
Yeah.
evening,
Whatever's going on
morning.
for you. Yeah.
Yeah, hope it's good. So
YouTube time.
yeah.
Happy podcast time. Maybe you're running,
Yeah,
listening to podcasts.
like I do.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's when I always listen to my podcast. All right,
Yeah.
guys, have a great rest of your day, and we will see you next week on the
Next
next episode.
episode. Bye.
Bye.
We hope you will stick around, tune in, and reach out to us with your own journeys. We are excited to give you an inside view of what it takes to be a caregiver and what it's like to be a patient.
And most of all, we hope you'll maybe be able to play something you hear on here that might help you in your own life. Sometimes life changes, and it's all about how you handle the journey.